Good afternoon. My name is Jim Conlan and welcome to the latest episode of our entertainment show. As you know, in part 3 of our entertainment show, each week we run a special feature called Into the Vault, which is a movie sort of feature or a TV feature. But this week we're particularly concentrating on movies, and we're looking at delving into the vault classics, looking at movies, whether it be a 60s cowboys movie, a 70s police cop detective show, maybe it's an 80s military movie, maybe it's a 90s romance story, maybe it's a noughties futuristic story, or maybe it's a 2020 evolution sort of movie. Whatever the genre, we look into it. We look at these sorts of movies that have left their mark. And for this week's episode, we're going back to 2012. And we're going back to a comedy movie. It was based on the principle of a book written by Steve Harvey. That's the sort of theme that causes a friction, dare I say, between the sexes, between men and women, between the gang of brotherhoods, between the men and then the women, the bonding there in terms of what's giving this, dare I say, the secrets of manhood away. It's called Think Like a Man. It featured an all-star cast featuring Michael Ealy, Jerry Ferrer, Meagan Good, Regina Hall, Kevin Hart, Tajiri P. Henson, Gabriella Union, Chris Brown, Steve Harvey, Kerry Hilson, J.B. Smoove, Kelly Rowland, Meta World Peace, and our special guest this evening, the one and only Teria Birlon. Teria, first of all, hi to you too, and thanks for joining us this evening in this Into the Vault feature. And wow, when you look at all those star names to be associated with a movie, in terms of, was it, dare I say, it was a laugh a minute going to work every morning?
It definitely was. Like a man? It definitely was. Star-studded cast, great comedians, and just all-out fun. I mean, we just had a blast on set. It was something that's so memorable to me. But I mean, you saw Kevin Hart, and I mean, the list goes on and on. Just hilarious people to be on set with.
And Teria, in terms of landing your part and your role in this movie, tell us a bit about your character and the audition process to land that role. Was it, dare I say, was it a long, rigorous audition process? What was it like in terms of landing this sort of role? And what did it tell you when you arrived in terms of auditioning? Had you to go through 1 or 2 auditions, or were you sort of recommended for this role?
I actually went in for another role, and as you saw, it was a star-studded cast. So in 2012, I was more so beginning my career. So I think the part I went in for like a bigger name, but they liked me so much, they wanted me to have something, which I was so excited about. So I went in about 2 times and eventually landed in the role that I got. So it was just, like I said before, amazing to be included in the names with the star-studded cast.
And Teria, when you went in and auditioned for the role, were you aware of some of these names? Were they already cast to this production? Were you one of the last, dare I say, to come on board this sort of movie? Or were you aware when you tried out for auditions and who was involved and who wasn't attached to it?
At the time, I'm 100% sure Kevin Hart was already attached, so that was already exciting. And as you know, Will Packer produced it, and he's a powerhouse. Maybe a year or so ago, he produced the Oscars. And back then he was completely on the rise, and it was just an honor to even be, a part of a film that he was producing. And the director, Tim Story, Barbershop, all kinds of movies he's done. So those names were definitely attached, and Kevin Hart was attached, and I got in towards the process of them attaching everyone else to the film.
And Teria, in terms of your role now in the movie, I know it's a small role, but it's an important role. You might enlighten our audience in terms of, they look and say that's a memorable face, and I do remember her from Think Like a Man. Whereabouts can they remember you from?
I've definitely had people come up to me from Think Like a Man, which is hilarious. And I'm always like, oh yeah, Think Like a Man. It was great being a part of it. They remember that part because Regina was actually in the store buying the book at the time. So, and Terrence J. So it's memorable of just people that, I don't know if you remember, there was like a fight over the last book because all the women wanted to get their hands on it. So it's a memorable scene for sure.
And Teria, when you were on set and for Think Like a Man, I know you probably got to see some of the cast members, but maybe not all of them. What was your sort of interactions? You mentioned starting off as a young actress in your sort of career. Was it almost like a feeding frenzy in terms of teaching for you, learning on the sort of job? Did you, in between take the takes that you weren't involved in, were you just around the cast, around these sort of people, trying to learn as much as you can, watch the takes, watch them in action, trying to hone their skills, and obviously trying to pick up pointers and engage in conversation and make contacts, dare I say, as well?
Absolutely. Who stands out the most to me is Meagan Good. We didn't actually have scenes together, but she was there during the time that I was filming, and she was just the sweetest, most gracious person and actress, one of the sweetest, most gracious actresses that I've met. And it was great being around her and being able to watch her. In the actual scene that I was in, I worked with Regina Hall. And it was great to be able to actually watch her. And she's just so natural and naturally funny too. It was just kind of, she didn't really, you could see it wasn't much effort there. It just comes naturally to her, and it just seems so easy with her. And that's a feat because comedy is all about timing, and it was flowing for her very easily. So those are the two that stand out the most for me.
And Teria, in terms of the launch of the movie and in terms of its release and its sort of worldwide release at that time, and obviously, did you get to see a private screening with the rest of the cast members before it was sort of released? Was there a good lot of publicity? Were you able to meet up with some of the crew, some of the cast that you probably hadn't had scenes with in the movie, and get to introduce yourself and say, yeah, that's me in that part there in the movie, and get to talk to other people at that sort of stage? Was that exciting for you, the sort of the whole premiere of the event, and family and loved ones were they in the attendance with you?
Yes, I actually went at the time to the cast party at the end, and we had a preview for the cast to see the screening. And to this day, that is still probably the most fun cast party I have ever, like rap party I've ever been to. Just imagine all of those funny people in one place and all those star-studded names. It was so much fun, and everybody was so nice. And like I said, I was beginning my career, and they were all gracious and giving wonderful advice. And I really, really appreciated that. It's still something that stands out in my memory today.
And we all know Kevin Hart is a funny guy, a sort of comedian, but he's very much a down-to-earth sort of guy, offsetting, a very sort of serious individual who likes to engage in intellectual sort of conversations as well. And was that your sort of memories of Kevin, that when he was cracking up on screen, but there when you got to see him, the cast party was very much himself. He could be him sort of self and interact, or is he just a funny guy when he's not? When is Kevin Hart just funny 24/7 basically?
You know what? You may be right. He may have that serious eye. I didn't get to see that.
Okay.
I mean, he was cracking jokes. He was being Kevin. I really got to see why he's Kevin Hart. I mean, he was just hilarious. I don't think I had anything but a laugh on my face the entire night. So he's very funny.
And Teria, in terms of being involved in a big sort of production like that, and a big sort of movie production, did it almost start to whet the appetite when you got attached to that role? And it was produced, and the sort of you had that on your sort of credits at the time. Was it sort of right? I need to get back in there and get down to business and sort of drive on and use this movie as a launching pad for my career?
Absolutely. I mean, just like I said before, being around those type of people, those type of names, and seeing how hard they worked. And I even during that time, I got the producing bug from being around Will Packer, just watching him work every day and just being in the zone and his just process. I really started to think about, I want to act, of course, but I also really liked the idea of producing. And then I went on to write and produce a film of my own. So I think the inspiration really started to come after I did Think Like a Man, for sure.
And I know it's Think Like a Man, as you mentioned, has given you other aspirations in terms of your own sort of acting career and now a sort of producing career as well. And I do believe both are coming to fruition in 2023 in terms of projects in the works. You might enlighten our audience and our listeners about that.
Well, I've always been a big fan of female sitcoms. Group of Four, from The Golden Girls to Living Single is one of my favorite ones, and of course Sex and the City. So my goal has always been to be a part of one of those casts, and right now I am writing a sitcom with 4 women about their lives, 30-something-year-olds finding who they love, their careers, and just navigating life in a big city.
Okay, and I do believe, Teria, you mentioned something before we came on air about a instance or something like that.
The impetus, for instance, was actually, like I said before, Think Like a Man, just being on that set and seeing how it's good to be able to take control of your own career. So I sat down, and I always love to write. I wrote a script called Instance, which is about a teacher and a student and some instance occurring that might not be on the up and up. And I won't give away spoilers, but it is available to see on Amazon right now. We've won many different awards. So if people would like to check it out, I actually won a Best Actress Award for that. We won Best Musical Score, Best Short Film, written and produced by me and directed by one of my great friends, Nicholas Kasuchi.
Okay. And Teria, I know you mentioned before you got on air that you have a bit of the sort of travel bug, and coming to Ireland is definitely in your plans in the near future. And what is it about the Emerald Isle and the greenness of Ireland that sort of intrigues you?
First of all, I love your accents. I love the accents. I love green, just the rolling hills and everything that I've ever heard of Ireland. I'm like, my husband and I, we love to travel. So it's definitely on the to-do list. What are some places you suggest we go when we come?
I would suggest, Teria, the west of Ireland, in terms of if you want to see old Normandy and Viking sort of castles dating back to the 1700s. The Cliffs of Moher is one of the unique sort of in Europe, and the Burn, the karst limestone landscape. And so basically, if the west coast, if you want to get the real feel of Ireland, maybe counties Clare, counties Galway, Limerick, Kerry. That sort of Cork, that sort of area in terms of that sort of west sort of coast. And we do feature a good lot of those, while Dublin on the east coast, maybe the big capital sort of the city as such, it probably doesn't have the landmarks that sort of the west coast. And there's some lovely towns in like Galway and Limerick that are, and Clare. There's an airport there on the west as well, so Shannon Airport, which does many flights to USA as well. So that would be one I'd recommend.
So what's some food we should try? What's some food and drink we should try?
Oh, I'd say you definitely a pint of Guinness and the bacon and cabbage. The bacon and cabbage is literally the spuds, the bacon and the cabbage in Ireland. Anyway, you mightn't get any a bit better bacon and the cabbage in the world, and an Irish breakfast as well. The traditional Irish breakfast as well. They're sort of unique as well. But Teria, before we go, and I just want to bring us back now to Think Like a Man. And for any listeners, any viewers that, especially this Into the Vault series, we mentioned about some of the cast: Regina Hall, Kevin Hart, Jerry B. Hinton, Gabrielle Union, Chris Brown, Steve Harvey, Kelly Rowland, Meta World Peace, yourself, Teria Birlon. What's in store for them if they're looking for a Kevin Hart movie? They think they've seen them all. They come across this. Why should they throw on this movie? Why should they go back to 2012 and watch Think Like a Man? And what's in store for them?
I just think Like a Man is a universal story, right? It's the battle of the sexes, basically, and everybody's kind of out for themselves. But at the end of the day, when you realize that you should be your authentic self in a relationship, and when you're dating, and just be who you are, and compliment each other, give each other what you need. I feel like that was the biggest thing, is that people were out for themselves and not trying to give the other person what they wanted in return. And I feel like when you treat each other with respect and love, everything works out. And that's ultimately what happened towards the end of the movie. The games were thrown out of the window and love happened, which is the most important thing. Yes.
True. No finer or truer word, Teria. Teria Birlon, thanks for joining us this evening in this episode of Into the Vault movie series. We look back on classic movies. The movie in question went back to 2012, a comedy movie featuring Kevin Hart, Michael Ealy, Meagan Good, Tajira B. Henson, Chris Brown, Steve Harvey, Kerry Wilson, Kelly Rowland, Meta World Peace, and our special guest Teria Birlon this evening. Think Like a Man. Teria, best of luck in your acting and producing career. Hopefully, no doubt that comedy series will take off, and we'll let you see you in Hollywood in Boulevard in terms of the bright lights, in terms of taking over from Steven Spielberg in the near future. But for the moment, Teria Birlon, stay safe, take care, and God bless.
Thank you. Great talking to you. Bye-bye.